Oh, it's hot in here. That'll be the greenhouse effect. Talk about greenhouse gases. Mum must have put chicken poop in the plants.
Australia is hotter than it's ever been, and it's getting hotter.
So what are we going to do about it?
We're going to check out some big ideas all over the world and ask,
Can we cool
the country?
Cool the country.
Methane is a greenhouse gas, and it's in animal farts.
Yeah, sure, methane is a greenhouse gas, but it comes from many different places, just not a cow's bum. Cows actually burp methane.
Cow burps, making the world hotter.
Partly. You do know how the greenhouse effect works, right?
Warm air rises, and once it gets high enough, the cow burps freeze, forming the ozone layer that traps heat inside, like a glass house.
Charlie, no joking. Carbon dioxide, like methane,
Burps.
absorbs more heat than the rest of the atmosphere and stops it radiating back into space. So does water vapour, and the warmer the air gets, the more water vapour it can hold, which makes it warmer still.
Like Mum's greenhouse. It's super humid in there.
Exactly.
Okay, I've got a serious question. I've done some research.
Research? You mean your machine found some info?
Exactly. Research. Check it out.
That's the last glacial maximum, and the world warming rapidly as the ice had melted.
Yes, and the greenhouse gases went up at the same time. My question is this. Was there a massive release of gas, and did it make the world stink like a giant fart?
Maybe in places, briefly. The rapid melting of ice poured so much water into the oceans that it stirred up carbon dioxide from under the water and under the ice.
And stinky methane?
Methane doesn't smell, but any gases dissipate quickly into the air and you really can't smell them.
Just like when you fart?
Like when I fart.
No further questions, Your Honour.
To be clear, the release of greenhouse gases after the Ice Age was rapid, but nothing like as fast as it is now. Around 10 or 12,000 years ago or so, that kick-started a greenhouse period. All that extra CO2 fueled the regrowth of forests on land that had been buried for thousands of years under sheets of ice kilometres deep.
And that's when forests and woodland grew in the heat engine region of Western Australia?
Correct. Even the Sahara Desert was covered in grassland, with wetlands and woods scattered about. So if you're done talking about farts...
Oh, I can always talk more about farts.
We're going to try to buy Australia some more time. Ask your machine to search for Dr. Benjamin Sovacool.
I don't know who Benjamin Sovacool is, but he seems like a cool guy.
Dr. Sovacool has led studies and co-written books about geoengineering and how it might mitigate climate change in the years ahead. Dr. Sovacool, can you hear me?
Wait. What makes you the guy we should talk to?
In terms of kind of policy and technology solutions to the climate crisis, my thinking began more than a decade ago.
Like what?
There are 5,000 things you can do, from energy efficiency for industry to household solar panels to electric vehicles to things like better land use management or forestry.
Thank you, Dr. Sovacool. Please don't mind my young colleague.
Hey, but don't ignore me either.
We are looking at an idea to cool the hottest part of Australia by growing forest there. Of the 5,000 things you say we could do, is reforesting a useful one?
From memory, there are like 4 or 5 things that are far superior to others. I remember it's solar photovoltaic, so solar panels, and wind power are the biggest 2 things you need to do for electricity. There were 2 for forestry. It was afforestation and reforestation, and better land use management.
We're talking about those last 2 things, I guess.
Those 4 things get you some huge magnitude of emissions reductions that's like greater than 20 or 30 other things combined.
Good, but we're worried it could take too long before it can even make a difference.
Nature-based solutions always work very well. They also work slowly, right? They work over decades to centuries. Whereas some of these other options, like stratospheric aerosol injection, could see temperature change in 6 months. So that's the kind of tension. The nature-based ones are a kind of safer, more scalable, but slower. and more prone to reversibility.
This hot, arid region in Western Australia is also sparsely populated, so it could be a good laboratory to safely test some form of man-made geoengineering. One idea we've heard a lot about is carbon capture.
Both direct air capture and carbon capture and storage, the consensus was not till at least 2045, and possibly 2055 or 2060. And they're not even close to ready.
What would you suggest might work?
Solar radiation management, which is basically a fancy term for how do we reflect sunlight so that we can lower temperature.
That's what we need, to reflect sunlight and lower the temperature.
Do you think the world needs to try geoengineering, or can we still beat global warming without it?
We are not implementing climate policies fast enough to stop emissions, and we're not investing in adaptation enough. Adaptation needs are anywhere from 1 to 10 trillion per year, and we're maybe investing 100 billion.
So could geoengineering be more cost effective?
By the end of this century, the UN is telling us 1 million species at risk of extinction. 1 million. And so, this kind of puts the climate emergency into context and how inadequate a lot of our interventions are. And that's the case for geoengineering. Can we use technology and human ingenuity to repair the climate and undo the past 3 or 4 centuries of mass damage to the atmosphere?
Mass damage from too much fighting. Am I right, Benji? Wow, you're as much fun as Laura.
Beg your pardon, Dr. Sovacool. What can you tell us about solar radiation management?
Australia is already doing some amounts of kind of marine cloud brightening, fogging, and shading over the Great Barrier Reef. So I think Australia is clearly a world leader there.
That's spraying salt water. It seems like a cleaner, safer option than spraying chemical particles into the stratosphere.
It sounds bad. In an absolute sense, these planes are spraying particulates. But in a grand sense, it's going to be less than like 0.001% of what we're already putting into the atmosphere anyway. So the additional increase in air pollution is negligible. And they would create asymmetries in protection, as in it's not even protection. It depends on how the aerosols disperse. It's usually sulfur.
Sulfur? Isn't that like rotten egg gas?
That's hydrogen sulfide, so if the sulfur reacted with hydrogen in the atmosphere, it could smell.
Like a huge fart!
Right. Well, we might look into using salt for aerosol particles to start with and press on with the forest.
If you start to do forestry now, well, then the emissions reductions compound. There are dozens and dozens of non-climate co-benefits. Jobs, right, is one. Because planting trees takes people, and the trees have to be maintained, and so, there could be thousands of jobs with ecosystem regeneration. Tourism, right? These things are beautiful to come look at. Cooling, right? Green spaces and forests tend to be a lot cooler than deserts. Healthy forests can provide dozens and dozens of other co-benefits that aren't just related to climate change.
Maybe we should just focus on water harvesting and reforesting. Ben said solar radiation management could reduce the temperature in months, but it's high risk.
Next time, let's find out more about marine cloud brightening and how that uses salt particles.
No one yet has approved doing large-scale experiments.
That's okay. They will. Soon enough.
Charlie, we don't know that yet.
I do know, actually.
You can't. Nobody knows.
I do. You want to know how? You want to know how I can talk to you like this?
You're not finally going to tell me, are you?
You might not like it, Laura.
Charlie, come on, tell me.
I'm talking to you from the future.
Are you serious?
It's the truth. Not way off into the future. Just a bit.
What year is it?
I don't want to be too specific.
And someone invented a machine that can communicate across time?
Something like that.
And some kid is the only one who gets to use it.
It's complicated. See? That's why I didn't want to say anything before. I should have kept quiet.
Charlie? Charlie?
Knock, knock. Who's there? Let us. Let us who? Let us in and you'll find out. Next time, we'll visit the seaside and breathe the bracing sea air in episode 9, Marine Cloud Brightening.
Cool the country.